What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Top 5 Rundown. And with me today is a good friend and another good YouTuber you need to check out. Go ahead and introduce yourself there, my friend.
Hey guys, my name is Tyler Tompkins. I want to thank you, Cody, for letting me do this video with you. I'm just like Cody. I do movie reviews, TV reviews, trailer reactions, and every now and then I'll show off my Blu-ray collection, but I pretty much do everything that Cody does.
Yes, exactly. We're two of the same. So Tyler is with me today. We're going to be talking about one of our favorite actors. We're going to be going over our top 5 favorite Bruce Willis movies. So I'm sure you have a few honorable mentions because there's no just 5 good Bruce Willis movies.
No, I'll tell you, man. I was excited when you told me about this video because, I've always wanted to do one of these. And I thought this Bruce Willis, top 5 would be really easy, but like I said to you before we started shooting, I've been working on this list up until we hit record. So I have quite a few honorable mentions. I'm just going to list them so we can get to the top 5. But my first honorable mention goes to 12 Monkeys, which I find to be a very underrated time travel movie that's not really talked about that much anymore.
Oh, yeah.
I like that one. Then my second honorable mention is Live Free or Die Hard, which is my second favorite Die Hard movie in the franchise. And that mainly has to do with me because that was the first Die Hard movie I ever saw. Oddly enough, I got to go see it in the theater, and I was really excited because when I was younger, growing up, I couldn't really watch rated R movies, not all of them, and this one was PG-13, so it was good for me, but I'm sure a lot of fans were upset because they were used to that rated R, style of movie. And then my third do what?
I was one of them.
yeah, and so was my grandpa, who I went and saw it with. But my third honorable mention goes to The Fifth Element. It's a cool little sci-fi movie I find to be underrated. And my last honorable mention goes to Armageddon. Bruce Willis, Ben Affleck, Aerosmith, Michael Bay. I mean, I just find it to be really entertaining.
It is a really entertaining movie. And you know what's also really entertaining, and you can find it on YouTube, is there's a certain clip of Ben Affleck doing like a commentary on Armageddon where he just rips apart the logic of the whole movie, and it is hilarious.
I didn't even know
so,
that.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny. It's funny. It's almost as funny as the movie itself. So yeah, those are definitely good honorable mentions. I was trying to do a list of honorable mentions, but I figured I'm going to end up doing like a freaking top 20 if I go that far. So I'm just going to mention 2 movies that I think never get mentioned when people talk about great Bruce Willis movies. First one is The Last Boy Scout. And it's just a little, kind of like a buddy cop style movie with him and Damon Wayans. It's ridiculous, it's stupid, but it's hilarious. It's like a slapstick more version of John McClane. He's kind of like the rugged cop, and Damon Wayans is kind of the goofier guy. So it's a lot of fun. It's got some good action in it. I've always thought that was an underrated movie. And the other one is Lucky Number 11. Now, that's a movie... Yeah, that's a movie I never hear anybody talk about, but when I first saw that movie, it like blew me away because there's this gigantic plot twist that comes out of nowhere. And I mean, leading up to that, the movie is still entertaining, but just Bruce Willis is the classic mean, badass Bruce Willis. It's like this film noir throwback with a lot of twisty plots, and you got Morgan Freeman being a mobster. Just a really crazy movie. If you haven't seen it, I think it's worth checking out. But definitely an underrated Bruce Willis movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that one, dude. And The Last Boy Scout, I have not seen that. I almost watched it, actually, before making this list, but there were a couple of other movies I wanted to rewatch. But I'll definitely check that one out.
It's worth checking out. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. It's a product of its time. It's a 90s action movie, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I heard it's really good.
Yeah, exactly. Well, with our honorable mentions out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and let you go first with your number 5.
Alright, so this is where it got really difficult. My number 4 and number 5, I kept going back and forth. These are the 2 movies I had to rewatch one of them just to, kind of determine where it would go. But number 5 goes to Looper, which I find to be probably the best time travel movie we've had in the past decade, maybe. It's a phenomenal movie, and the reason I have it at number 5 instead of number 4 is because I don't feel like Bruce Willis plays as big of an important part in number 4 as he does in this one. Basically, Looper is about it's set in the future, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt works for the mafia, and basically time travel was invented in the 30 years after the time of Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and it's been outlawed. And Bruce Willis gets sent back in time to be executed, but Bruce Willis ends up being Joseph Gordon-Levitt, so you have this very complicated situation. It's just very well done. It's the best Bruce Willis movie we've had in probably I don't know, like 6 or 7 years, maybe even longer than that. So
yeah,
that's why it definitely
far
deserves a spot on this list. That's probably the main reason. It's just because I hope we get to see more of that Bruce Willis in the future, and I have a feeling we will.
I have a feeling we will too. That seems to be the kinds of movies that he wants to do. He seems to get like he's tired of playing the John McClane types. He wants to do something different. I agree with most of what you said. I'm going to elaborate more on Looper shortly. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my number 5. And my number 5, and before I lose 300 subscribers, the only reason that this movie is number 5 is similar to what you said, is that this is a movie that Bruce Willis plays a smaller part in. He's only in about maybe between a quarter and a third of the movie, and that's Pulp Fiction.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Pulp Fiction, I mean, I think most people would agree that's Quentin Tarantino's best movie. If not, it's at least his second best on most people's list. The movie's just, when it came out, was revolutionary. The way it told its story in different parts, it revitalized John Travolta's career. It gave Samuel Jackson his career. It was just another great stepping stone for Bruce Willis. Just all these different crazy, ridiculous, violent stories all woven together. And speaking strictly on Bruce Willis's part, he's just that Bruce Willis that I love. The Bruce Willis that doesn't take any shit from anybody, the one that just doesn't care. He looks around the room and knows that he could probably destroy everybody in there if he really wanted to. So like the whole scene with him and Marcellus Wallace where he's like telling him that you're going to do this and you're going to do this, and he's just straight-faced the whole time. It cracks me up every time I see it. The relationship with his girlfriend Fabienne, the whole thing that goes through with those two guys in that shop, which I won't get into depth with. If you haven't seen the movie, it's not worth knowing what happens until you get to that scene in the movie. But Pulp Fiction's a classic. Bruce Willis is one of the best parts in it. That's my number 5.
I think it's a good time to transition into my number 4 because it is Pulp Fiction. That's the one I couldn't between Looper and this. That's the reason why I couldn't decide, because of the amount of screen time Bruce had in both of those movies. But Pulp Fiction, I had to put it ahead of Looper just because every time I think of Pulp Fiction, a lot of people think of Samuel L. Jackson, John Travolta, but whenever I hear the words Pulp Fiction, I think of Bruce Willis in the pawn shop searching for a weapon. You get where I'm going with this? That's the exact scene I think of. Even though he's not in it that much, he's my favorite character in the entire movie. I look forward to his storyline every time I watch it. And I mimic everything you say. He's just phenomenal in the movie.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite parts of that movie too. Like you said, everybody always focuses on John Travolta and Samuel Jackson, and deservedly so. But I always think
of the movie. Yeah, they're all great in the movie.
Yeah, I always think of his part too, just because there's so many classic lines that shouldn't be funny, but they're hilarious. Like Zed's dead, baby, like stuff like that. You just walk around, you're like, it's just endlessly quotable. So yeah, it was a difficult between number 4 and number 5 for me too. The only reason, like I said, I picked it as number 5 is just because he plays the smaller part in that movie versus what I'm about to get into with my number 4. And my number 4 is a movie that we were discussing not too long ago, Unbreakable. Yeah, so I knew I had to pick one Shyamalan movie. Everybody loves The Sixth Sense, and I'm one of them. But Unbreakable to me is the better movie of the two. I think that movie was so far ahead of its time. Just the concepts and the way that it tries to bring superheroes into the real world. I like Bruce's performance in it. He's kind of more that subdued Bruce Willis, where he's just a regular Joe. He's not his usual, action star persona. Getting away from him for a minute, one of the greatest comic book villains in Mr. Glass of Samuel Jackson. Just the way that movie unfolds is brilliant to me on so many ways, where it just starts off with this total mystery, and it just kind of goes in places you don't expect it to go, and especially at the end, which I think is a better twist ending than The Sixth Sense, which is the one that everybody always talks about. Just almost a flawless movie from beginning to end. One of my favorite comic book / superhero movies that doesn't get mentioned enough. My favorite M. Night Shyamalan movie, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that universe expanded here soon, because it seems like he's going to be heading that direction.
And I will expand on that movie later, because it's on my list, but it's a little bit
higher.
Yeah, a little higher.
Sounds good. So take us to number 3.
Yeah, now my number 3 is Die Hard. You may or may not have heard of this movie before, Cody. I don't know if you've I don't know if you heard of this one, but simplicity is key. I mean, Die Hard, it really shouldn't be as good of a movie as it is. In my opinion, it shouldn't. But I mean, it's such a simple storyline. Bruce Willis is John McClane. He goes to see his wife Holly in that. What is the name of the tower again? Nakatomi Tower. Hans Gruber, one of the best villains of all time in any action movie ever. He's the only one that can take down the guys. It's so great. So many great one-liners. Now, Live Free or Die Hard was my favorite Die Hard movie at the time that I saw it, but then I went back and watched Die Hard a few years later, instantly fell in love with it. And it's like I said, it's just, simplicity is key. That's all I can say. It's just like simplicity is key.
Yes, exactly. Now, something that I actually forgot to say at the beginning of this video, but it's a perfect time for me to get into it now. You guys, if you have been following me even for 2 days, you know that my favorite movie of all time is Die Hard. You know, Tyler was just joking about it. A movie I might have heard of before. I talk about Die Hard all the time. It's, you know, the best action movie ever, the best Christmas movie ever, the best everything. Anything that Die Hard applies to, it's going to be my number one. So for that reason, just so I don't seem monotonous and just keep talking about the same movies over and over, I'm actually going to omit Die Hard from my top 5. Yes, it's the best Bruce Willis movie in the world to me, but just for the sake of not talking about it 1,000 times, I'm going to omit it from this list. Now that being said, I didn't say I couldn't pick another Die Hard movie, so my number 3 is Die Hard with a Vengeance. Now this movie, I love Live Free or Die Hard just as much as you. I'm one of the few people out there who like it. I mean, right up there with the first one and the third one. I think it's very underrated. I think a lot of people give it too much, flack. It is a little bit more superhero-ish, kind of like the Fast Furious movies than the Die Hard, kind of the grounded story. But I still love that movie. But Die Hard with a Vengeance, to me, is the one that gets as close as possible to matching the first one, but without all that classic simple elements like you were just talking about. I think that the plot with the whole going around New York City and stopping the bombs was great. I think that Samuel L. Jackson and him had amazing chemistry. I mean, just absolutely hilarious with each other. The villain is my second favorite since Hans Gruber, and I think that the reason why John McClane gets thrown into this situation is probably the best explained and the most realistic in this movie. Hans Gruber's brother coming back from revenge. It's a lot more realistic to me and a lot more easy to swallow than just, oh, he happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time once again. So for that reason alone, I think story-wise, it's the second best Die Hard. Great action scenes. It's bloody. I mean, it's rated R, just like the first one. Yeah. It's really bloody, like especially the scene in the elevator when he just like shoots like 4 dudes in the head and he comes out covered in blood. Like it's a wild movie. So yeah, that's my second favorite Die Hard. It's my third favorite Bruce Willis movie. That's the one that if I'm not in the mood to watch Die Hard for the billionth time, I'll pop in Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Yeah, mimic everything you say. It definitely earns its R rating. I almost put that in my honorable mentions because it's my third favorite Die Hard movie. But I just haven't seen it in quite some time, so I wasn't too sure how I felt about it. I remember the beginning of the movie very well, but the ending, I kind of can't remember parts of it. I know they go in that, the underground under New York City and whatnot. I kind of remember bits and pieces of that and the villain, but I just didn't feel comfortable putting it on my list. But I do love that movie though still. It's a fantastic entry into the Die Hard franchise.
Yes. Sounds good. Well, what's your number 2?
My number 2, this one again was hard, number 2 and number 1, but number 2 goes to The Sixth Sense, which is these final 2 movies. To me, they contain the best Bruce Willis performances of all time. The Sixth Sense, that movie. I didn't get to see it in the movie theater. I was young when it came out, but I know it took moviegoers by surprise. And I remember doing research on it. It was nominated for numerous Oscars, which is very unheard of nowadays for a horror movie. But that just goes to show kind of how great of a movie it was. And it contains, in my opinion, either the first or second best twist of all time. The story just goes in a direction that, the way it's played out, it's so well done. And Bruce Willis, I really like his character, Dr. Malcolm Crowe. He plays a child psychologist who meets up with the young Haley Joel Osment. And I really like the dynamic between him and Haley Joel Osment because Haley Joel Osment, he doesn't really have a father figure in his life, and I thought Bruce Willis really fit that spot perfectly, and I like seeing those two interact. And it's a shame he wasn't nominated for Best Supporting Actor. That actually surprised me, and it's surprising too that Bruce Willis, he's never been nominated for an Oscar. It's kind of surprising.
Yeah, that is strange, and that movie came out, and that was one of the first times you saw a different side of Bruce Willis. Because he did a few romantic comedies here and there. He did a lot of action movies. He did a few dramas and stuff like that. But like going into like psychological horror, that wasn't something you expected from Bruce Willis, and the type of performance he gave wasn't something you expected from Bruce Willis too, because he's very subdued, like I was talking about with Unbreakable. And it's a movie that's, even though when you know the twist, you can't quite watch the movie the same way again, it is endlessly watchable.
And to build on that, surprisingly, I mean, it may be different for you, but a lot of my friends have not seen that movie before. It's one of the only movies it's one of the first movies I go to show my friends that haven't seen it, and it's just it never gets old when I watch it. And also, it definitely earns a spot on this list because it's one of the last performances where Bruce Willis has hair. It's very important.
Yeah, that was an allusion to the whole, the ghost of Bruce Willis's hair.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything you said. I'm surprised there's people who haven't seen Sixth Sense, because it's one of those movies. It's almost up at the top with like Empire Strikes Back, with like, even if you haven't seen the movie, you've seen the movie just from hearing about it for the past.
And for people who haven't had it spoiled, I mean, consider yourself lucky, because it's very hard to come across nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost a joke, like telling about the ending of the movie. So Sixth Sense is great. I mean, it was a hard omission from this list. I just wanted to keep the Shyamalan movies to picking one. And I went with my favorite of the two, but if I took that rule out of it, it would have been on the list somewhere. But yeah, that's a good number two. My number two it's also a movie that I think is really underrated, but I love this movie unabashedly. There's some people that think it's not very good, and I don't understand it. Hostage.
Oh yeah, dude, that's a great movie, man.
Yeah, I love Hostage. I don't understand. Like, it's just one of those movies that when it came out, I was on this Bruce Willis high. It was around the time that I discovered Die Hard, so I was like kind of doing like Bruce Willis research. That's when I saw like Last Boy Scout and most of the movies on this list. And then Hostage was coming out, and I was like, oh yes, a new Bruce Willis movie. And it was so crazy to me how that movie balanced so many different kind of genres all in one. It was like a home invasion movie and a siege movie and kind of a crime thriller and even part horror movie to a degree whenever you start getting deeper into like Ben Foster's character. And it's just a crazy movie. Like, Bruce Willis kind of plays, that might be actually the last time he had hair, unless that was a wig, when he had like the super long hair at the beginning.
Yeah. Dang, I need to go back and make my list, man.
Yeah, exactly.
I forgot all about that movie.
Yeah, a lot of people have. That's why I'm always surprised. That's why I always talk about it. It opens up with this gut-wrenching opening.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, you're like, how would you come back from that? And then basically Bruce Willis, for the few people, if you haven't seen Hostage, he was this big hostage negotiator. Something happens that makes him not want to do that job anymore. And he becomes like this sheriff in this small, quiet town. And something very big and dark and epic happens in his little small town that kind of throws him back into this hostage negotiation scheme. And just that movie was just written so smart to me. Like, from the point of having the three kids that go into this house and they break into Kevin Pollak's house, to the whole motivation of why Bruce Willis needs to get into the house, but he's also trying to struggle with this moral thing where like he has to get into the house to save his family, but he also doesn't want to sacrifice the family inside the house, and he has to find a way to balance those two. Or can he pull off both? Is he going to have to sacrifice one? And it's just this crazy tense experience from beginning to end. Ben Foster, another completely underrated actor. That's one of his wildest performances. I mean, he's just psychopathic to the nth degree in that movie.
I forgot he was even in that movie. I forgot he was in that.
Yeah, I mean, he's this chameleon in that movie. And, everybody gives a great performance. Bruce Willis has a few scenes in there, especially a scene which is almost like the last scene in the movie where he really shows his acting chops when he's, not to spoil the movie for anybody, but just whenever everything's resolved. I love Hostage, a movie that never gets talked about enough. It's everything I want from a Bruce Willis movie. That's my number two.
that is a solid number 2. Like I said, I wish I could have gone back and watched that because I completely forgot he did that movie. It's one of his more like underknown movies that I completely forgot about that one. But yeah, I agree with everything you said. Very powerful performance, and I forgot about that hair situation he had at the beginning of that movie. You may be right.
Yeah, he was like an ex-hippie hair. He was like combing his beard and everything like that while he's talking down hostages and yeah.
Yeah. So ready for my number 1?
I'm ready for your number 1. I have a sneaking suspicion what it is.
I was gonna make a Good Day to Die Hard joke, but I'll be nice. It's Unbreakable. Unbreakable is my favorite superhero movie of all time is Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy. But if I'm being honest, I think Unbreakable might be my favorite, quote unquote superhero movie. To me, it's the best Bruce Willis performance. In that movie, I was incredibly shocked he was not nominated for an Oscar. Like you said, he's very subdued, but that was what made it so powerful. He was acting with his eyes, and just the twists and turns that story takes as well. I will agree with you that movie, that's up there, man. But the big surprise at the end, another collaboration of Samuel Jackson and Bruce Willis after doing Die Hard with a Vengeance. They do wonders together. I would love to see them work in the future. Maybe that will happen. Maybe it won't. But
fingers crossed, toes crossed.
Yeah, exactly. But just this is a phenomenal movie. It's probably my second favorite Shyamalan movie. Probably my second, but it's my favorite Bruce Willis performance of all time. And that's another movie that a lot of people haven't seen, unfortunately. It just came out, like you said, it was ahead of its time. Not enough people know about the movie, and hopefully a lot of people go back and watch it. We'll see. I don't know, but that's my favorite Bruce Willis movie.
Yes, and that's awesome, number 1. And what's funny to me is I always thought that like Unbreakable was like this little secret that I knew about. People didn't talk about it, and then all of a sudden, like, it's kind of 50-50, I guess, because I see people in the theaters in, a movie that we just saw recently that didn't know what the hell was going on. But then at the same time, like, all these people kind of came out of the woodworks, like, oh my God, the ending of that movie, it's what's going to come next? And I'm like, people know about Unbreakable? This is crazy.
Exactly.
Like,
that's how I was too, because the movie I saw, only about 50% of the audience reacted, and I was trying to look for all of those people. I was like, oh, cool. I guess I'm not the only one who's ever seen that movie before.
Yeah, and it always felt like this this well-kept secret to me. Like, everybody always talked about Sixth Sense, and I'm like, dude, you haven't seen Unbreakable. Like, Sixth Sense is great, but Unbreakable, like, everything. I mean, I already talked about it, but everything you said,
in those movies,
one of the best.
In those movies too, Unbreakable and along with The Sixth Sense. I said this with Sean one time, our buddy Sean. Those movies are just timeless. Those movies, those will definitely stand the test of time. They just have a very timeless feel, and it's really weird thinking Shyamalan directed those movies. It's just really strange that he directed those so early on in his career. It feels like something he should have made later on in his career after he's kind of mastered his craft. But
exactly. Yeah, it was kind of it was like a 1-2 punch after Sixth Sense. And we were talking about it yesterday about how much money it took, like, because Split's making ungodly amounts of money. And we were talking about the amount of money it took to make Unbreakable and the amount of money it took to make Split versus the amount of money they're making. And I was like, well, I don't think anybody was ready for Unbreakable in the early 2000s. Like, if that movie came out today, people would be, like, losing their minds. Like, holy crap. Like, in the time of all the Marvel Cinematic Universes and the DC Cinematic Universes and the X-Men universes and the Deadpool universes, and then you come out with a movie like Unbreakable, people would be like, what is this?
Yeah, because it's, like, the most grounded, like, quote-unquote superhero movie of all time. It feels the most realistic, to me, at least.
Yeah, and part of that, I saw a video where Quentin Tarantino was talking about his favorite movies of like the past.
I watched that too.
And he was talking about Unbreakable, and he had a great point. And I don't remember the marketing campaign for Unbreakable. I think I just watched it because it was from the guy who directed Sixth Sense, but they kind of mismarketed that movie because they should have marketed it, and this is how you need to approach Unbreakable if you've never seen it, is what if Superman lived among us, but he didn't know he was Superman?
It gives me chills. And, like, when he said that, it gave me chills. I was like, that would have been perfect.
Yeah.
The movie would have made so much more money.
Yeah, everybody would have been like, I'm going to see Unbreakable. So, yeah, that's a fantastic movie. Like, I love Bruce Willis's movies so much. Like, I almost look at number 4 now, and I'm like, Unbreakable, you should be a little bit higher on my list. But it's just one of those things. I almost feel like Die Hard's my number 1, and then I have, like, a 5-way tie for number 2. So, yeah.
This list was so hard to make.
Yeah, it is. Well, moving on to my number 1. We've discussed it earlier. My number 1 is Looper.
Oh,
And partly, I mean, like, I agree with what you said about him kind of taking a little bit of a backseat to Joseph Gordon-Levitt, but I kind of view them as the same character in a way. Looper, to me, it hits me in a way because I'm just a time travel fanatic. Ever since I was a kid, like Back to the Future, Frequency, you know, Predestination, a movie, you probably have never seen that one, but that's a really underrated movie. Like, I'm a sucker for time travel movies done right, and Looper came out, and I was like, somebody actually did a time travel movie right, because it gets done wrong so much. And just so many things were revolutionary about the way they just did the concept of time travel. With the whole concept of like the mob sending people back to kill them was like ingenious to me. The way that like whenever the one guy let his loop go, and then they found the younger version and they were just like taking off parts of his limbs and they just started disappearing on the older guy, like just wicked stuff that you would not think of until it's happening, and you're like, holy crap, I've never seen that before. No. The whole concept of like just the way that they showed time travel and that, like when they had that huge montage of what would have happened if he did kill Bruce Willis, and like then it kind of loops back around to whenever Bruce Willis is sent back, and that's why he decides to change things and, you know, run away instead of getting killed. Like just crazy innovation, and that's what drives that movie so high on my list. I also love Bruce Willis's performance in that. Like you were saying, that was like the best Bruce Willis we've gotten in a long time, because he was one of those guys where for a long time it almost seemed like Bruce Willis just gave up.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, like I think you've said this before in one of your videos, but I mean, it's obvious he's like king of the red box. You know, like,
yes, that's what I call him, is king of the red box now. Like every red box you go to, he's on like 5 of the movies on the cover. You know, it's like 2 young stars and then Bruce Willis's head in the background, or they'll put him in the front, but he's in like 5 minutes of the movie. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's just like he's expressed frustration with not wanting to do action movies anymore, and I guess that's why he put a lot into Looper, because like he's clever and witty, like the classic Bruce Willis. Like whenever he's in the diner and he has like whatever the girl's name is cut into his arm, and he's like, you know, there's a girl Lisa in the back here too, it's got less letters, like stuff like that, like just that classic Willis wit.
Yeah, he still got it. I mean, he still has it in him. He's just he's just making weird choices. It's just really like he must be getting paid a lot for these Redbox movies or something like that. I'm surprised. I'm surprised he didn't get offered more right after Looper, just because of how good he was in it. It's just shocking.
Yeah, exactly. And the scene that drives it home for me as far as like Bruce Willis's side of the movie is whenever he goes in to finally take out everybody in the mob, including Jeff Bridges, and he turns into John McClane on steroids in like that one scene. So like that's me. I was like, that's my Bruce right there. That's my Bruce. So yeah, I love Looper. I love everything about that movie. I think it's it's held in high regard, but I still think it's underrated, even though it's held in high regard.
A little under. I feel like it was underseen because I don't think a lot of people have seen that movie either. That aren't like movie buffs like us, you know. Also, I think it was overlooked at the that movie was Oscar worthy to me. I'm surprised that one didn't pop up at the Oscars.
Yeah, especially with like visual effects, like Rian Johnson. I'm so intrigued, mostly because of Looper. Like I like the movie Brick.
Yeah, it's a pretty good watch.
Yeah, it's a good watch. I don't think it's as revolutionary as some people like to say it is. Looper to me is like Looper, as well as the Breaking Bad episodes that he directed, is like his resume for me. Yeah. But just based off of Looper alone, I cannot wait to see what he does with episode 8.
That's the main reason I'm excited for it too. Is just after seeing Looper. Had he not made Looper, I would be kind of like, I don't know about this, but having seen Looper, it's probably going to be one of the best Star Wars movies ever, hopefully.
Yes, exactly. So that is our top 5 Bruce Willis movies, people. Check out these movies if you have not seen them. Check out Tyler's channel. He's on YouTube. You'll see him and me communicate back and forth regularly, but go ahead and tell him about your channel one more time, Tyler.
It's on YouTube. Look up Tyler Tompkins. I should be the first guy that pops up, and I'm also on all the social media too. Just search my name.
Yes, and I'll put a link to his channel in the comments or in the description box of this video as well. So check out his channel, give him a like and a subscribe. On his videos, he does a really good job. Like and subscribe to this video if this is the first time you're checking out the top 5 rundown. I will be back again with some more top 5 rundowns with Tyler, some more of my buddies on YouTube, as well as Holly, my girlfriend, and once in a while by myself whenever I get bored. Just want to talk about making little lists about different things. So thanks again for being on the video, Tyler. If you guys want to check out a few more of my videos, you can check out a few more by clicking right over here.